Alrighty, I'm going to begin because we don't have much time. We have a lot of media on the call. So good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for another update on the wildfire situation in the N.W.T. My name is Agata Gutkowska, and I work with Cabinet Communications here at the Ledge, and I will be moderating today's press conference. Before we get started, just a reminder, please keep your cameras off. Unless you are on the panel, please keep your cameras off and also mute your microphones. Of course, during the QA portion, when media is able to ask questions, you will have to unmute yourself, but please, prior to that, to ensure that we hear everybody clearly, please mute those mics. So today we are going to start with remarks from Shane Thompson, Minister of Environment and Climate Change and Municipal and Community Affairs. Then Mayor Alty will make remarks. Following Mayor Alty, Minister Green will make remarks. And then Mike Westwick will provide an update as well. After Mike's update, we will move to the media Q&A portion where reporters will be able to ask one question and one follow-up. If there's time for more questions, we will do another round. And just a reminder, we do not have much time today, so I am asking that reporters stick to questions related to the wildfire. Questions outside of this can be directed to press secretary. So the order of questions for media will be Raphael and Alexander with Media N.W.T, Luke, Carol, and Sarah with CBC North, Kai with NNSL, Alexander with Radio Taiga, Ollie Williams with Cabin Radio, Carly with APTN, Cristiano with Media N.W.T, Claudian with Radio Canada, Connor True North, Ian CKLB, Gilam CPAC, Dan at Reuters, Scott at CTV News, Bill and Jill at CTV National News, Carrie, Globe and Mail, Anne-Marie at ARD German Radio and TV, Jacques, CBC Edmonton, and Shoei, CBC News. And of course, if you don't remember that order, that is fine. I will call on you during that media QA portion. Oh, and also we have here Jamie from Global News and Jim from News Talk. Am I missing any outlets? Okay. Alrighty, so on the panel today, we do have a large panel. We will have Premier Cochrane, Minister Thompson, so Minister of ECC and MACA, Minister Green of HSS, Minister Wozniak of ITI and Finance. We will have Mike Westwick, Wildfire Information Officer for ECC. We will have Jennifer Young, Emergency Management Organization Information Officer for MACA. Kimberly Riles, CEO of the Northwest Territories Health and Social Services Authority. Dr. Claudia Kraft, Territorial Medical Director. Gary Brennan, Assistant Deputy Minister, Regional Operations for the Department of Infrastructure. William McKay, Deputy Minister for Finance. Tammy April, VP of Customer Experience at Northwest Tel. Corey Strang, CEO and President of NTPC. Emily King, Director of Emergency Management for MACA. And City of Yellowknife Mayor Rebecca Alty and Sheila Basikelet, City Manager. I've also put the names and titles of our panelists in this chat as well, media, so that you can pull those up if you need to. Okay, so before we begin, please try to direct your questions at the appropriate person, media. So again, each outlet will have an opportunity to ask one question and at least one follow-up. If time allows, then we'll be able to go over that again like we did yesterday. And with that, I would like to turn it to Minister Thompson for opening remarks.
You're on mute, Minister.
Oh, there, I thought I had it button. Sorry. You think after 4 years of doing this, we get it right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. Yesterday, I declared a state of emergency, understanding that the N.W.T. wildfire outlook was rapidly evolving and the need on the grounds were quickly changing. Unfortunately, our wildfire situation has taken another turn for the worst, with the fire burning west of Yellowknife now representing a real threat to the city. Concerns are also remaining in the South Slave, where wildfires are threatening Hay River and Fort Smith, as well in the Dettah Show at Jean Marie River, as well and the Bodal Inuvik. After breaching a fire after reaching a fire break over the weekend, the fire west of Yellowknife has continued to advance and now burns approximately 17 kilometers outside the city. Without rain, it is possible it will reach the city outskirts by the weekend. Facing this possibility, I'm directing residents of Yellowknife, Dettah, Ndılօ, and Ingraham Trail to begin evacuating in a phased approach determined by the level of risk. Residents of the city west end, including Grace Lake, the Cam Lake Industrial Area, and Ingle Business District, should leave first. Residents of Dettah along the Ingraham Trail should also leave tonight. Evacuation center has been established at the Yellowknife multiplex to support those residents tonight. I want to be clear that the city is not in immediate danger, and there is a safe window for residents to leave the city by road and by air. We are asking all those residents to be evacuated by Friday at noon. You put yourself and others at risk if you choose to stay later. With assistance from multiple N.W.T departments, the City of Yellowknife, Joint Task Force North, the RCMP, Public Safety Canada, the Coast Guard, and the private sector, we are ready to support the safe evacuations of residents. Again, I want to stress that the city is not in immediate danger. There is a time to evacuate safely, and this is exactly what we're planning on doing. If you're able to and plan to leave by road, pilot vehicles will help guide drivers through smokier areas immediately outside the city. I want to stress that the road is safe to drive. Please ensure you have enough fuel before leaving. We're also working with numerous airline partners and the federal government to help with our air evacuation. Flight schedules are being finalized now and will be posted to the N.W.T Public Safety later tonight. The first flight will leave tomorrow afternoon. Evacuating by boat to an island or cabin is not recommended, as air quality is expected to decline. I understand this is a very stressful time for residents and loved ones. A lot has changed in the past day, but we will take every precaution to ensure our residents' safety. Please take this order seriously and prepare to leave the city by noon on Friday. Take this time to check in on friends, family, and please remain calm. We will all get through this together. At this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to Mayor Alty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. First and foremost, I want to stress, like the Minister has, that the fire isn't here yet. There is a possibility that without rain, the fire reaches the outskirts of Yellowknife by the weekend. It is approaching, but there's time to complete the community evacuation. It's being called now so that we can allow people the opportunity to drive while the highway is open. The highway is subject to closures at any time, but it's likely that it'll be open until tomorrow morning. Conditions will be smoky, and residents should drive with caution and care. Dettah Boulevard is closed so that crews can maximize work on the fire breaks. So to access the highway, residents will have to use Old Airport Road. As the Minister mentioned, flights will begin tomorrow and will continue until everyone is evacuated. I can appreciate that everybody wants to be on the first flight out, but please follow the instructions so that everyone can evacuate in a timely manner. We don't want to cause congestion by having people come when they're not supposed to be there. This is an incredibly difficult time for everyone. Please look out and help one another as you can. If you're driving and have space, please consider bringing a friend or pets. Please have patience with all staff who are working to assist people out. Again, we recognize that it's a stressful time, but let's make sure we continue to be kind to one another. To all of the essential staff who will be remaining, a big thank you. I know it will be difficult to be away from your loved ones during this time, and we thank you for your selfless service. I want to reiterate, the fire is not here. By issuing a community evacuation now, we can implement the evacuation plan while the highway is still open and with plenty of flights to fully evacuate everyone. Throughout this all, we'll continue to do everything possible to slow the growth of the fire and protect the community. As we continue to stress during this emergency, please only consult and share reliable information. For the most up-to-date information, please visit the N.W.T's website. Residents will be getting an evacuation order notice, or sorry, an evacuation order on their cell phones after this press conference. Please consult the N.W.T's website for more information on next steps for the evacuation. Once again, everyone, please take care. Minister Green, over to you.
Thanks very much, Mayor Alty. I'm happy to talk a little bit about how Health and Social Services is taking care of the vulnerable population. Our focus is on safety and well-being of our residents. So we started a phased evacuation yesterday, beginning with people who were in long-term care in Stanton Legacy, then moving on to supported living services clients who were moved this morning, and ongoing ramping down of non-essential services at the hospital and moving patients who need longer term care to southern places. So many of the services that we normally offer are now only being offered on an emergency basis. Please visit the NTH-SSA website for more detail if you have a question about whether the service you need is impacted. There is proactive notification going on between healthcare providers and patients to alert them of these changes. Today, we again issued an adverse air quality alert. Sometimes when the smoke blows in, it's very thick. It's a risk to people who have poor respiratory health, and we encourage those people and all people to stay indoors with the windows and doors closed and to use air filters if they have them. Finally, we are hosting the reception center at the Yellowknife multiplex. 180 cots have been set up and are ready for use, with the ability to access more if needed. There's food available there, and people will be evaluated for their needs. So I encourage anyone who is wanting to do an interim step before Friday noon, they are certainly welcome to the multiplex, where they'll be greeted by NTH-SSA staff, and their needs will be taken care of. So with that, I'd like to turn this presentation over to Mike Westwick.
Good evening, everyone. The wildfire situation in the Northwest Territories continues to be critical. Here we've had a lot of good updates from our ministers on Yellowknife, and I would like to touch on a couple other locations. Hay River saw the fire to the south of their community get closer to the city today. We saw highly active fire in that area, and it was moving quickly. That situation is constantly evolving, and we are going to be continuing to put out updates for the folks out there. But what I can tell you is that our team in the town of Hay River are working as hard as possible to keep that community safe. Moving on to Yellowknife, I want to be clear about the wildfire situation for folks as they make the difficult decision to leave their homes. There is a possibility that this fire reaches Yellowknife without any rain by the weekend, the outskirts of Yellowknife. And by Friday, there is a possibility that without rain, that fire could reach the Ingraham Trail. This is a very serious situation, and our teams are coping with a lot out there. I did want to share some good news from today. We've heard a lot about visibility challenging firefighting efforts out on the Yellowknife fire, out here, the Yellowknife and Béchacon fire, and the Ingraham Trail fire, and the Dettah fire, all of them that are encircling this area. But today, we were able to get out and fly. We had 7 air tankers hitting targets on the east of the fire, ZF-15, the Béchacon Yellowknife fire, and we had crews out there, and they were able to get some good suppression work done. We do expect the fire will have progressed slightly further to the east by the end of the peak burning day tonight. However, we think that the suppression work has done its job in slowing the growth towards the city. Now, I do want to look forward a little bit. because as folks are leaving their homes and heading to a place where they're going to be watching their community and a wildfire nearby anxiously, I want to talk a little bit about the plans that we have in place to help protect Yellowknife, Ndılӧ, and Dettah and the area. So I'm gonna share an image here. Of what the plan looks like in the Yellowknife area. So in conjunction with the city of Yellowknife, we are setting up an extensive line of sprinklers and high volume water systems surrounding the city. These systems are intended to discourage ignition and to protect structures if wildfire does encroach. The area in yellow is a control line where we'll have crews on the ground cutting kilometers and kilometers of line with fire retardant laid down to provide important base for operations and for us to use all the tactics at our disposal to keep this community safe. Now, some of the tactics we're considering. We're considering work to head off the fire with fire towards the east, or towards the west. I apologize. This is one tactic we can use, but I want to assure residents that we'll be using every tool at our disposal. We'll be looking to direct attack that fire as is possible. We're going to be looking to slow it down, and we're going to be continuing to do good work on the ground to slow the spread towards Yellowknife. Now, I want to stress the importance of the city of Yellowknife in this plan. The city of Yellowknife has been working shoulder to shoulder with our team as we work to protect this community as we face down this unprecedented wildfire crisis here. Now, I did want to give a little bit of context on how we got here. Some may be asking, why are we doing operations so close to the city at this point? The reality is we've been fighting this fire for well over a month. And this fire has burned deep, it has burned hot, and it has found ways through multiple different sets of established lines that we have established since it began near Owery Lake. This is a sign of the season that we're facing and the extraordinary conditions. It's a sign of the built-up fuel in the environment, where we've seen build-up index levels reaching nearly 200 in some areas of this fire, and well over 150 in others. Now, for context, 90 is considered extreme in that instance. And this is one of the things, this along with the fact that the weather has not cooperated for us, has been what's made it so difficult to manage this fire. And in closing, as folks prepare to leave their homes and watch from afar, I just want to reiterate our commitment to you and the things that you care about in Yellowknife, Ndılӧ, Dettah, and the Ingraham Trail. I did want to touch on the Ingraham Trail and Dettah as well. The news today is primarily about Yellowknife. However, work is being done to protect structures in the Ingraham Trail area, and as the fire has continued to grow eastward, away from Dettah over the past few days, we've been doing good work out on the landscape to protect cabins, lodges, and the like out there. And we're going to be continuing to prepare for additional operations in the future on each of those fires, laying retardant line to give us a base of operations, and head off those fires however we can. Thank you, and thank you for joining us. And my thoughts are with everybody who's leaving the city today.
Thank you, Mike. All right, so we're going to move on to the question period right now. So as I mentioned, each news outlet will have the opportunity to ask one question and one follow-up. It's 7:55 right now, so if time will allow, we will get to more questions. Again, I remind you to please mute your mics until you are called upon, and please make sure to mute yourself again once you've asked your question. I also ask that you try to direct your question to one of our available speakers. Of course, if you're not sure who to direct it to, I can help you out with that. And I am going to be going through each outlet one by one, starting with Raphael and Alexander from Media N.W.T. Media N.W.T, do you have any questions?
Hello, this is Christian Pereira, also from Media N.W.T. I think Alex is with a problem with the connection. I have, in fact, a question for Minister Thompson, which is, what's the plan for all the people that have no vehicle? Will there be buses, or how many planes and how many people do you estimate will be evacuated by plane?
Minister Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you. So we do have a plan. There is buses will be available, planes will be available. Sorry, my camera went off. There will be planes available but for the real detail on this, I will turn to Emily King, who could also turn to other staff at the EMO technical staffs. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Emily.
Residents who are immunocompromised or need evacuee supports should plan to evacuate by air. We're asking all other residents who don't require assistance or evacuee supports, evacuate by road. And for the details of air evacuation, I'll turn to our planning lead.
Good day. My name is Chief Warrant Officer Frank Arp. For the air movement itself, right now we're working with the civilian planes to be contracted, and at this point we don't have the numbers of how many planes. There will be some assets from the Royal Canadian Air Force, and for the busing and all, well, if you need something whatsoever, then we tell the people to reach out, and we'll figure that out at that point.
Thanks very much. Media N.W.T, do you have a follow-up?
I do, yes. Again, another question for Minister Thompson. So the supply of the gas on the roads is a bit limited, with only 2 places to get fuel in more than 700 kilometers. And considering that there will be hundreds or thousands of vehicles on the road during the next hours, my question is, are there any measures being taken to increase this fuel supply and prevent it from running out?
Minister Thompson, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I can tell you infrastructure has got a tanker full of gas that we will have on the road. We will also have tow trucks along the way. But at Big River, they have guaranteed or informed us that they have a lot of gas available, and they will be having other gas brought in on Friday. So we've looked at that situation. We've contacted the businesses, but there's also a private car lock in Fort Providence as well, which will have gas available for residents to access. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. All right, moving on to Luke Carroll at CBC North. Hi, Luke.
Hi. Yeah, I got so many questions about this evacuation strategy, but I'm just going to start off. This has been a pivotal day, maybe like the most pivotal day in Yellowknife's history. We're talking about the Capitol potentially burning down. Why hasn't the public been provided any information all day today?
Minister Thompson?
So thank you. So I can tell you right now that the EMO, territorial EMO, has been meeting since 9 o'clock. We wanted to be able to make sure we had the correct information to be able to provide to the public. It was also having the opportunity to see what was available, whether it was airlines, buses, equipment we needed. So again, it was working with the team to be able to get the information available. It was also working with our joint Joint Task Force North, the city of Yellowknife. So we have a process that we needed to follow and needed to work together on that. But as for the detail on how complicated this process was, I will turn to Emily King. Thank you.
Emily, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So we have an incident management team that's been working on planning various elements of this evacuation. We have a team for road evacuation planning, a team for air evacuation planning, and a shelter planning team. So lots of details to work out over the past few days, and our incident management team continues to work through the details and future planning 24/7.
Thank you, Emily. Luke, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do have many. For starters,
well, you
okay,
have time for one right now, so
yes.
go ahead.
I don't understand the phase. Are people in Dettah and the Ingraham Trail and the west end of the city, are they being told to leave now? And what's being done for the homeless population in the city as well?
Okay, Minister Thompson, go ahead.
I will turn that to Emily King. Thank you.
Go ahead, Emily.
Thank you. So the details of the fire risk to the Ingraham Trail, I'll defer to ECC. But essentially, we would like to have all residents in the Ingraham Trail and Dettah come to Yellowknife prior to evacuating south if they so choose. The resources are here, the supports are here, and this is where we can coordinate the best response for residents.
Mike, did you want to jump in here?
I'll just reiterate the fact that without rain, it is possible that the fire could reach the Ingraham Trail on Friday. That is trail.
Mike, your audio didn't come through for me. I'm not sure if it was my connection or yours. Do you mind repeating that again?
Yeah, I would just say that in terms of wildfire risk, we'll reiterate the fact that fire could reach the Ingraham Trail on Friday if there was no rain. This is our projection. That's all I'd say.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Minister, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I think you asked about the homeless. So we are working with the shelters, the day shelter, the warming shelter. We're working with the people that work with the people that are homeless. So we are looking for that. We're also having the conversations with them. We're advising people on that. So we're not leaving anybody behind. We're working on that. So each department, social services, and us, health and social services, are working on the homeless situation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. All right, moving on to Kai at NNSL. Kai, are you there? Okay. Oh, I see that you left a question in the chat here. All right. Since the N.W.T has taken over the emergency measures, this question is going to Minister Thompson. Where should people stay after they are evacuated? Minister Thompson?
So for that detail, I'm going to turn to Emily King because it's very complicated and there's different locations and work that we're dealing with. So I'll turn to Emily King. Thank you.
Okay, Emily King, go ahead.
Thank you. So we really do ask residents that do have capacity and supports to turn to their household emergency plans and stay with friends and family where possible. For those that do not have places to stay, we ask that you, if you require evacuation supports, we encourage you to evacuate by air. We have worked with Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba to identify host community locations in the south. The initial host community will be Calgary, and we'll reevaluate as necessary.
Thanks very much. And there is a follow-up question as well. And Minister Thompson, this one will go to you. So with what happened between yesterday and today that moved the evacuation order today? And that's from NNSL. Minister Thompson?
So I'm going to turn to Mike Westbrook, and then he can turn it over to Emily because it's, again, very complicated in process. It did involve ECC and municipal and community affairs and the EMO process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Westbrook, go ahead.
I think in terms of the wildfire situation, what changed is we've continued to have more fire behavior analysis based on upcoming forecasts, and the situation just kept getting less positive for the communities, Yellowknife, Ndılŭ, Dettah, in terms of access to roads, in terms of access to essential services, and the potential of this fire reaching the outskirts of Yellowknife by the weekend. That's a very significant change in state from where we were a couple of days ago. Again, we didn't get some showers that were in the forecast over the past little while. That's kind of been the story of the season. And it was incumbent on us to share that information with emergency managers and communities to make these sorts of decisions. This is a very difficult situation, and it will continue to be difficult.
Thanks, Mike. Emily, do you want to add to that?
The only thing I would add is that, the change in situation requires us to access resources quickly, so we wanted to be best positioned to do so.
Thank you very much. All right, moving along to Alexander at Radio Taiga.
Well, can I?
Oh, yep, go ahead, Minister.
Thank you. So the other thing is that the window of opportunity right now is going to allow us to evacuate people safely. So this is what the other reason we enacted this was because right now to make sure people are safely, they're able to evacuate by road and by air. We need to do it now instead of wait until as the fire get closer, we could lose access to the road and then planes could maybe not land. So this is another reason why we enacted it now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Radio Taiga.
Again, it's me from Radio Taiga, Christian also, maybe I can answer the choses. I have another question for the Minister Thompson. I know that the Premier Caroline Cochrane spoke today to the Prime Minister Trudeau, and I need to ask what concrete measures have been discussed or what concrete aids will be provided to the Northwest Territories and when that help will arrive. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I'm actually going to direct that one to the Premier. Premier, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for the Prime Minister reaching out today to talk to us. Our emergency management organization is working with public safety, the ministers, applicable ministers in the federal government to get our needs met. Basically, what I talked to the Prime Minister today was the situation that we're seeing in the Northwest Territories, our limitations with road access, etc., and getting a commitment from him, recognizing first that every department federally has been working diligently with us, but just giving him the heads up that we're at a critical point now, and that if we need support and resources, please let all your departments know to pay attention and make it a priority. And his commitment was that he would do that. So again, a thank you to the federal government for all they've done, and to the Prime Minister for his commitment to making us a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Minister
Can I
Thompson?
add to it, please? Thank you very much. So besides the Premier reaching out to the Prime Minister, Minister Sajjan has reached out to me a number of times out there. So today we had an additional 100 plus military come in to help with us on top of the 100 we already have in place. But he's also made a commitment to be, if we need to do more work, to need more material support, he's willing to do it, and not just for Yellowknife, but other communities in the Northwest Territories that are in this situation. So he also has given something that he's been able to give the support to his staff to be able to make decisions quickly without going through up in the proper chain of command. So it's been given the ability, the flexibility to address situations across the Northwest Territories and the city in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Okay, we're going to move on to Cabin Radio. Ollie Williams, do you have a question?
Hi, this is Emily, actually, that's going to be asking questions. We've gotten a ton of people writing us right now with questions, asking details about the evacuation and how it's going to affect different populations. One question we've gotten from a few different people is, what is the plan for home care patients?
Okay, Minister Green, do you want to take this?
Yeah, the home care patients are being assessed for their needs and directed to places where those needs can be met. I'll ask Kim Riles to fill in some detail there, please.
Kim, go
Kim
ahead.
Riles, the head of NTHSSA.
Thanks. So we've been compiling information about people that we know of that live in the community, that are community residents who may have special needs, and that information is being passed on to the EMO. And I mean, I certainly can't speak to this, but perhaps Mecca could. But I believe there are accessible transport options being organized.
That's correct.
Okay. Cabin Radio, do you have a follow-up?
Yes. So we've been asked for folks that have booked commercial flights. Are those still happening? And when is the latest that people are still going to be able to drive out of town?
Sure. Minister Thompson, do you want to take this one?
I would turn to Emily King. Thank you.
Go ahead, Emily.
Hi, so I don't have visibility on the availability of commercial flights at this time. We are working with the air carrier companies, but I don't have a total summary in front of me right now. And can you repeat the second element of that question?
Emily, do you mind repeating that?
Sorry,
Sorry.
I'm just looking for the second part of that question.
Yeah, when is the latest that people are going to be able to drive out of town by road?
I'll have to defer to ECC and perhaps infrastructure on that one.
Yeah, why don't we bring Gary Brennan in here? Gary, I see that your hand is up and Gary works for the Department of Infrastructure. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, thanks, Aggie. So in terms of commercial traffic for airlines, right now the Yellowknife Airport is open and will continue to be open for the foreseeable future. We're going to be needing to evacuate people on maybe some commercial flights and some charters. Also, medevacs out of the territory are important as well, including bringing necessary equipment and materials into the territory. So there's no plans to discontinue the airport at this stage of the game. As for highways, we're going to keep moving people out as long as it's safe to do so. Obviously, Mother Nature will make that decision for us in terms of the fires breaching the highway. We'll continue to move folks piloting out Highway 3 from Yellowknife towards Betchico as long as we can, and it's safe to do so. We can't give a timeline on that there because it's out of our hands completely. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Alrighty, so moving along now to Carly at APTN. Go ahead, Carly. Do you have a question?
Yep, good evening. Related to what was mentioned before, do you know exactly where in Calgary people can stay if they don't have families?
Sure, Minister Thompson, I'll throw this one to you.
Yeah, I would turn for that detail to Emily King. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're working on the details with Alberta EMO, and we will commit to publishing those details once we solidified a location specifically in Calgary.
Thank you, Emily. Do you have a follow-up, Carly?
Yep. And then what does this territorial state of emergency mean for the towns and hamlets, say in the Sawtoo and Beaufort Delta, who aren't an immediate threat for evacuation? Like, how will that affect any of the changes in authority in regards to municipal and territorial municipal governments?
Minister Thompson, throwing this one to you.
Thank you. So municipal governments still can operate day to day. They can operate what they need to do if the community, basically the operations of the community still continues as would be normal. The state of emergency allows us to step in if we need to do, whether it's accessing resources to, get more staff in there. So right now, it doesn't have an impact on the day-to-day operations of the other communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Minister. All right, now moving along to Claudienne at Radio Canada. Hi there, do you have questions?
Yes, can you hear me? No, not
Yep.
yet. You
Yep,
can
we can
hear
hear
me?
you.
Excellent. I would like to know first to Minister Shane Thompson, I'm guessing. We know that there are still people in Hay River while the fire is expected to reach town tonight. Do we have an estimate of just how many people are still in Hay River and if there is a plane on site to evacuate them?
Go ahead, Minister.
For that detail, I'll turn to Mike West. No, I'm going to turn to Emily King there. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, so we are in touch with the town of Hay River, and for the details on evacuation planning, I'll turn to the air evac planning lead.
Right now, we're working with Stu Impet to try to get a plane into Hay River to try to evacuate. There's an estimated 30 people that want to leave. So we're still working on that and waiting to get a charter to be able to go in.
Thank you. And can I get the name of the person speaking?
So, sorry, Chief Warrant Officer Rick Francoeur.
Okay, thank you. All right, do you have a follow-up?
I certainly do, and if I don't mistake, there was a bit of a French accent there. If it was possible, s'il vous plaît, d'avoir tous les détails en français de l'évacuation et des opérations des Forces armées canadiennes, d'une part à Hay River ainsi qu'à Yellowknife, avec le plus de détails possible, s'il vous plaît. Merci.
Adjudant-chef Richard Francoeur. Pour le côté militaire, je ne peux pas en parler profondément tout de suite parce qu'on n'est pas impliqué pour Hay River. Par contre, on essaie d'avoir un côté civil d'ici de Yellowknife à aller à Hay River pour essayer de sortir ces gens-là. Pour l'instant, on essaie d'avoir un avion et on est toujours en attente à savoir quand est-ce qu'on va pouvoir avoir cet avion-là pour aller à Hay River pour sortir les 30 personnes qui ont demandé à vouloir sortir.
Thank you very much. And Chief, can I get Chief? Can I get the last speaker? Can I get you to type in or someone to type in your name and title in the chat there so that the reporter has that?
My question related to Yellowknife as well, if possible, to have all details in French that we can discuss.
I just want to keep going. We still have a lot of media and this is running until 8:30. If there is time for more questions, I'll run through it again, but I just want to go on to the next outlet right now. And that's actually True North, Connor. Connor, do you have a question? Okay, moving along to Ian at CKLB.
Yes, hi. I believe the question is for Minister Thompson. I'm wondering, is there a set of criteria that will determine when residents are able to return again? For example, something like the fire being a certain distance away from the city?
Sure. Minister Thompson?
So in regards to when the community or the people are safe to come back, there is when it's safe. When we know that they're able to go in, we do provide an update, and then we will, through ECC, works with the EMO, and then we look and see if it's safe. Because if you look at what happened in other communities that would have that were impacted by floods or fires previously, they would come to us, we would give a recommendation, and the community would make a decision. Like Betchico, when that fire happened, we were able to allow people in Ray come in, but we couldn't do Frank's Channel and Edso. But we give the alert notice so that they have 1 or 2 hours. So again, it depends on the situation and where we are. If we feel it's safe to go back in, and we work with the communities to make that decision based on the information that we get from ECC and others. Thank you.
Thanks. And Mike, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, if I could just add a little bit of kind of what we look for in terms of assessing wildfire risk to a community prior to return. In Beshico, what we looked at was the amount of fuel that was available to actually impact structures and people. And that's a pretty key consideration in, assessing the safety of a community prior to return, things like that. So, I mean, fuel can be influenced in any number of ways. It can already be burnt, as was the case for a lot of it, unfortunately, towards Béchacon, or it can be similar to in the Catholic First Nation, where we were able to do what's called black lining, basically working your way in from the perimeter of fire and extinguishing everything there to avoid flare-ups and hot spots that could then jump into areas you wouldn't want them. So just a couple of considerations that we've looked at prior to communities returning. Thank you, Mike.
Ian, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, I believe this question is for Mike. I keep hearing this language used that by the weekend the fire is expected to be on the outskirts of Yellowknife, but what does that mean? How close is that? I assume based on the language it doesn't mean in the community, but how close is that considered to be?
It's a fair question. It's a fair question, Ian. So the sort of what we're using as our benchmark to talk about how far away how far away a fire is from Yellowknife is the city of Yellowknife's municipal boundaries, which is of course outside of the area that lots of people would consider in town, perhaps. So that's kind of the area that we're looking at if there is no rain and subject to firefighting efforts.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. All right, moving along to Gilam at CPAC. Do we have CPAC on the line? No? Okay. Moving along to Dan at Reuters. Dan, are you there?
Yes, Dan Whitcomb here from Reuters. Do you folks have an updated number on structures destroyed, and have there been any casualties or anybody injured so far?
Sure. Minister Thompson, I'll throw it to you.
Are you talking about the Yellowknife fire, the Ndılŭ fire, the Hay River fire, the Jean Marie fire? I guess if you can be just a little bit more clear, that would help us. Thank you.
I was talking about the Yellowknife fire, but if you have casualties elsewhere, it would be good information to have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So in Yellowknife, we have no structural damage presently. They're within the municipality. We've had structural cabins along the highway that was impacted previously. So that there, and there could be some other cabins that have been impacted just recently. To date, we have not had any fatalities in any of the fires in the Northwest Territories. Pardon me, we had one in Fort Liard, Adam Yendo. He passed away fighting fire. So we've had one firefighters lost through that, but in Yellowknife, we haven't had any people pass away. Thank you.
Dan, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, can you tell us when the fire is expected to reach Hay River? More, I mean, I know you said it could be as soon as Friday. We're talking about overnight, or as best as you can put a time on it.
Minister Thompson?
I would turn that to Mike. Thank you.
Sorry, I think that you might have some stuff mixed up there. Hay River, there was an assessment earlier today that there was a possibility it could reach the area of the community tonight. That situation is constantly changing. There's more assessments being done on the ground. We've heard that folks are being able to get up for reconnaissance now after that fire began moving. So just to be clear on that front, if you were referring to Yellowknife, the assessment is that the fire, in absence of rain, could reach the outskirts of Yellowknife by the weekend, by Saturday, by the weekend. And and in terms of the Ingraham Trail, which is, again, a community that's an unincorporated community outside of Yellowknife, the fire, ZF11, the Ingraham Trail fire, as we've called it, there is a possibility, again, in absence of rain, that the fire could reach the Ingraham Trail by Friday. I hope that answers your question. Were you asking about Hay River specifically, or were you asking about Yellowknife?
Yeah, you've answered the question. I was confused, but thank you for setting me straight.
Okay.
Not a problem. You can follow up if you have any more things to get straightened out on before your story.
Okay, we're almost out of time here, but I do want to get through all of the outlets. So Scott at CTV News, do you have a question? Okay, Bill and Jill at CTV National News.
Hi, I believe this question is for Mike. It's Bill Fortier at CTV National News. Mike, sorry, just to follow up on another question. You mentioned this fire without rain could make it to the outskirts of Yellowknife by the weekend, but not what you would consider in town. So I'm just wondering, what is the risk and potential timeline for this fire to be what would be considered in town? Does that risk exist? How real is it? And what would the timeline be?
The risk is real, but I don't have a timeline for you on that. It's difficult to forecast out that much further with much accurate, without much confidence, with as much confidence as you'd want there. What I can say is that there is rain in the forecast, but we can't count on that, and that's something that we've seen all season. We've seen rain come into the forecast, and then we've seen it, seen the rug pulled out from under us. So again, it's a very challenging situation out there.
And just
Thanks,
quick follow-up. Sorry, quick follow-up.
Just one sec. Sorry, Bill, one second. I see one of our panelists, Sheila Basikelit, has her hand up. Sheila, go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much for the question. And certainly Mike has nailed it. There are a lot of factors that are influencing at what point the fire might come into town. But what is a very important point to raise is that in addition to the fire line that the ECC has got, that they've got the fire retardant on, where they may do the backburn that Mike pointed out in the picture in his presentation, we have 3 major fire breaks that we're placing right now. We have sprinklers on all of these. There are lines of defense that are lined up before the urban area of Yellowknife is reached. So we think it's very important that people are aware of that. It's not just a matter of rolling into town and then it will proceed into the built up areas. There are a lot of barriers in between that we hope will work with the weather conditions and with other conditions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like it looks like we're going to extend this press conference by another 15 minutes. I really want media you to get your questions in here. Bill, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, really quick one. I think this is for the Premier. Correct me if it's not. I'm just wondering about the status of the airport. Obviously, it'll stay open for outgoing flights until Friday at noon. What's the status of the airport for incoming and outgoing regular commercial flights?
I'll actually turn this one to the Department of Infrastructure.
Hi,
Gary?
thanks. Could you just repeat the question, please?
Yeah, the question is, what is the status of the airport between right now and Friday at noon when this evacuation order is, official? Will the airport stay open in the meantime for incoming and outgoing flights? And what's the status going to be now and for the next, however long that is?
Yeah, okay, thanks for the question. Yeah, so we have no plans to close the airport anytime in the near future. It'll be regular operations. And just to add to a previous comment is that the airport is a critical piece of infrastructure, not just for Yellowknife, but for the entire N.W.T. We have regular business in many other parts of the N.W.T. And the Yellowknife Airport is our first point of contact for launching off into other parts of the Northwest Territories as well. So just to reiterate, no plans to close the Yellowknife Airport at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Alrighty, moving along to Carrie at Globe and Mail. Hi, Carrie. Do you have a question?
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I'm wondering how you plan to track the evacuees, especially some of them are going to be going out on planes to cities where they may not know anyone, and you're going to have to get them back home eventually and be in contact with them to update them. What's the plan there?
Sure. Minister Thompson, I'll throw this one to you.
So when we move them, say when we go to Alberta, Alberta has a system of registering people, and then they track the people that way. We are working with our jurisdictions that are helping us out to get that information to us so that we can make sure we're able to give it to the communities, also that we have it. But for further details, we'll turn to Emily King. Thank you.
Emily King, go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, I would just say, the minister is correct. We're working with the Alberta Emergency Management Agency to collect data on evacuee registrations in Alberta, and we would certainly partner with Manitoba and Saskatchewan should we expand our host communities to those jurisdictions.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I'm wondering what type of resources might be available for the evacuees, whether, it's money cards or setting up hotel rooms, that type of thing.
Sure. Minister Thompson, I'll throw to you, or Jennifer.
Yeah, I'll start and then I can turn it to Jennifer. So because Alberta is looking after our residents, we follow their system. So their system would be accommodations and food, but they may have some other things in the system that they have, but I don't know that their system's different than ours. But for further detail, I'll turn to Jennifer. Thank you.
Jennifer, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to say the minister was correct in the types of supports that will be provided. They include accommodations and food and some mental health supports as well.
Thank you. I understand that some of the panelists may need to leave. Right now we are 2 minutes over. So if you do need to leave, please do. I know it's a really busy time. And we will keep going here. Alrighty, so moving along now to Anne-Marie at ARD German Radio and TV. Anne-Marie, do you have any questions? Okay. Jacques at CBC Edmonton. Any questions here? Okay. Shoei Chu at CBC News. Okay. Jim at News Talk. Okay, and Jamie at Global News. Okay, and we have one last question here in the chat. Does anyone want to? Okay, correctional services. So where I'm assuming you would want to know about evacuations for those in correctional services like inmates. Minister Thompson, do you want to take that?
Thank you. For that detail, turn to Emily King. Thank you.
Okay, Emily King, go ahead.
The Department of Justice would be best positioned to speak on their evacuation planning for corrections facilities. However, I do know they have plans in place and they are executing those.
Yeah, Sarah, I can connect with you after this call via email, and I'll connect you with the Department of Justice so that you can get a response for that one. Okay. Okay, I will take one last question now. Luke Carroll at CBC. Go ahead.
We heard something about the highway from Enterprise to High Level. There being issues on it. Can we get just an update on the roads for people who are evacuating right now, what they should know?
Sure. Gary, are you still on the call from the Department of Infrastructure? Are you able to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for the question, Luke. Lots of rumors are out there. What we're hearing on the ground is that there are some minor fires on the side of the highway, things that have flared up over day as the day has gotten hotter in some previous burn areas. Right now, the highway is open into Alberta. I shouldn't speak for Alberta, but I do know as of now that that highway is open from the border to High Level. Travelers should check Alberta 511 for updates for Alberta and just in case things change down there. Currently, we are open from Yellowknife through to the border on the Enterprise side and also open through to Fort Simpson, Fort Liard to the border on the BC side. So travel, those things can change at any point in time. Please remind travelers, if you're listening, be prepared for delays. Be prepared for stoppages, be prepared to turn around, bring water, food, gas, whatever you need, medications. Be prepared when you are traveling. It's a stressful time. We don't need other stressors put on travelers. And also, please be kind as you're traveling and follow all the rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And can you let people know where they can get the latest information on highway conditions?
Normally it's on our highways conditions map on our infrastructure website. I understand there's been some challenges, technical challenges with that. Today we're also posting on the N.W.T Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alrighty, so that concludes the QA portion of this briefing. And before we go, I would like to ask the Premier to make closing remarks. Premier?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your questions today. I know we're all tired of the word unprecedented, but there's no other way to describe the situation in the Northwest Territories. The residents of the territories, the country is watching, and our neighbors are keeping us in their thoughts and prayers. Earlier today, as I said, I spoke with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He assured us that the government of the Northwest Territories has the Canadian government's full support, and their resources are at our fingertips. We're all in this together, but individually, we choose how to react. I know this situation is full of uncertainty, but we must take steps to stay calm and not make decisions that are going to put other people and yourselves in danger. We're asking people to please evacuate. When you don't evacuate, you put yourselves and you put our first responders at risk. People are worried about their homes. Perhaps check with your home insurance. They often have plans that will help you. People that do not have enough money to leave town in their vehicles and need supports to get out of town, we're recommending that you actually meet at the multiplex, take a bus, or to take a plane. We don't want to see you broke down on the highway. Although we'll have supports, we want to make sure that everyone is safe. So again, if you are able to evacuate by the road, obey all the warning signs, drive slowly, watch for emergency management officials, traffic control devices, and the posted speed limits. There's going to be a lot of people on the highway, and so everyone needs to take caution as you drive out. Do not make any rash decisions that will put others in danger. We're going to get through this. We're Northerners, we're resilient, we're strong people. But now's the time to put our egos aside. Ask for help if you need it, and let's work together. Again, everyone, please evacuate. Please not stay behind. You put yourself and you put our first responders at risk. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier, and thank you all for joining us today. Thank you to our panel and to the media for your questions. And media, if you do have further questions, please reach out to the departments as well as to Press Secretary if your questions are for a minister or for the Premier. Once again, thank you very much. Goodbye.